In this video, I'll be talking about the new DJI Goggles N3. I'll kind of go over the differences between this and the Goggles 3 and is it worth buying? So let's check it out. So this is pretty exciting for me. I just recently got the DJI Goggles N3. So let's start by opening the box and checking out what's in it. Of course, you got the typical little green tab here. Now, one thing about this, from what I'm aware of, is that there's really not a lot of stuff here that they included with the DJI Goggles N3. If you notice here, this is just kind of an empty box. There's really nothing there. Now, what do we have here? That is pretty much it. A little silica gel, and that's about all you get. Well, that's it pretty much. So nothing fancy about opening the box and checking out what's in it. Really nothing much there. It's a bit disappointing that there is no USB-C to USB-C cable. There's really not much to it other than the goggles itself. And it kind of makes sense because this is a goggles product that is really low priced. I mean, if you look at this, this is $229 versus what the Goggles N3 goes for, which is about pretty much in the $499 range. So, you know, it's understandable that there's less packaging. Now, I do see little foam protection here. I don't see any reason to keep that other than keeping the box and keeping that with that. Inside, you're going to notice here, there is some lens protection. We'll kind of cover that a little bit more in a little bit. Let's look at what's around the goggles itself. It does have a pretty good lightweight feel to it compared to the Goggles 3 weight-wise. Let me straighten this out. It does seem to be similar in weight. I believe that the weight of this product in grams is about 535 grams, which is very similar to the weight of the Goggles 3. The Goggles 3, well, not very similar, but close. Goggles 3 is at about 469 grams, so they're pretty much the same weight. I've got it actually here, and yeah, it's close enough that you're really not going to tell the difference. Now it is a little bit bigger. I do see that it does have some vents here, and I've heard that only one is the actual real vent, and the other one is just kind of a fake one, essentially. You do have a micro SD slot here, along with a USB-C to USB-C port here that you can use for powering this for data as well. The one thing I really don't like is the fact that they have this on the top. With the Goggles 3, you pretty much have it here on the bottom if you look closely. And here it's kind of pretty much on the top. I don't know, it's kind of awkward, but you know, it's understandable. So you also have the, I believe this is like the 5D button here for the menu, along with the, from what I can tell, your power button is here, and this is kind of a selection button here that I can tell. You do have antennas that look to be pretty much not removable. From what I'm hearing is there's actually a total of 4 antennas. There's 2 antennas here along with the ones up here, which kind of helps with the range that you have, range capability that you have with these goggles. Now, I also noticed in the kit that it does not come with the top strap here, though I think you don't need it based on this design. Look at this design. I kind of like what they did here. It's kind of like a Y design here for the cable. That kind of makes it, I think, better overall. It's compared to what you have with the Goggles 3 here. This is actually at the top, like kind of at the forehead level. And I think that's probably going to give you a lot better comfort the way this is designed. Now another thing that's kind of obvious here is if you look at the power cord here, or the power cable that goes from the battery to the goggles itself on the N3, it's no longer built into the strap itself, unlike the Goggles 3, where it's actually in the strap itself. It's kind of sewn in there. This is more external, and I guess that also helps bring the price down, which is understandable. You do have additional adjustments for your strap here, which is Velcro, and you can see here you've got the ability to undo that and kind of adjust it based on your head size. So that's pretty cool. You do have some bottom vents here. Again, that's more for that anti-fog, that capability that this goggles have. That kind of, again, helps with any kind of moisture buildup in the goggles, and that's kind of pretty good. That's also there with the Goggles 3, so they're kind of pretty much similar. So compared to the Goggles 3, again, USB-C, micro SD slot, we've got pretty much the same stuff. You don't have a touchpad or anything on this one like Goggles 3 does, but everything else is pretty close to the same. Really good quality as usual, of course. DJI does make very good products overall. I do like this here. This is not a rubber, but instead it's more like a foam with a kind of a synthetic cloth type material. It's very comfortable, very soft to the touch. It's really, really good. You still have this here for the nose piece. That does help, you know, for times that you want to reduce the amount of light going into the goggles itself. So that's kind of pretty cool. Unlike the Goggles 3, this is all, of course, that's kind of a, I'm not very hot about the Goggles 3 padding. It's really just like a empty bag rubber silicone, I don't know what it is, silicone rubber piece here. Not to mention the forehead part of it is also that same silicone type or rubber type material. It's not very great when you sweat a lot. If your foreheads get sweaty, of course it's going to get sweaty here, so it's not all that great. So let's look at other things here. Of course, you do have your battery here. Of course, it's going to have to charge. Now, compared to the Goggles 3, the operation time on this battery is about 2.7 hours compared to the Goggles 3, which is about 3 hours. So it's pretty close. It's not really bad. And if you take into account, if you're using this with the Neo or even with the Avata 2, I mean, your batteries for those guys, it's not a lot of time. If you're carrying 3 batteries, the goggles will pretty much handle that. So that's pretty good. Same kind of design with the back battery here. You've got it where you can rotate this to tighten the strap more or loosen the strap, so that's kind of cool. I do like that it has that there. Pretty much the same, and this part of it, of course, is the same as in the Goggles 3, which is that rubber foam type material. So that's pretty much the same between the two. Trying to see if there's any other differences here. Now on the nose part of it, I'm pretty critical about the nose part because I have a very sharp nose and this tends to be uncomfortable. I do see that this part of it here is kind of a rubber-like material, which is kind of good. I believe on this guy, you don't have that in a Goggles 3. This is really a hard plastic where your nose goes in. And I find it at times to be a little bit uncomfortable on the kind of on the center of your nose. You don't have that comfort, but again, most of your weight is supposed to be right here and this is kind of supposed to be floating. But I kind of like the fact that this one is more of a soft rubber material for the nose part of it. I think that's a really good thing. Now here's the one main difference here, one of many of course, but main difference between the N3 and the Goggles 3. On this Goggles N3, the one difference you have here is that the display itself is not an OLED dual display. This one is actually a single 1080p 60 hertz LCD screen. And the way this is set up, your screen is here facing downward, and the screen is reflecting via a mirror inside the component here for your display. So that's what you're actually seeing, is a projection of the single display up here. Now, I've heard that it seems to be pretty good for some folks. Some folks don't like it, other folks do. And I believe what they like is the field of view. You get about 54% field of view on this guy compared to Goggles 3, which is lower, and I can't recall offhand what it is, but it is a lower field of view compared to the Goggles N3. So that's another nice thing about this. And you've got little the vents here for your air flow here, which is kind of nice. It does have this little same flaps here that do help keep the light out of the vision area of the goggles, which is kind of nice. So pretty good product overall. I do see that it is good. Now, the fact that it's an LCD screen, unlike the OLED screen, the dual OLED screens that you have on the Goggles 3, obviously OLED screens can be better, or they tend to be better than a standard LCD screen. But again, it's one of those where you kind of have to make a judgment call on what you think, whether or not it is. But for the price of $229 versus the $499 retail on the Goggles 3, looking at it, I think that's pretty good overall. Now, as far as that FPV feel, the immersion effect that you might have, it might vary between the two. I'll have to test it out myself and see what the differences are. But I think overall you'll still get that nice feel, wearing the goggles versus actually just working with a controller with a display. So, oh, by the way, don't throw this guy away. This is your lens protector, and of course, like it says there, it is reusable. So definitely don't throw that guy away, and keep that for covering your screens. Of course, like on mine here, I purchased this separately for this. Now, if you're going to notice, I'm going to talk about this here too. On the Goggles 3, I had to actually get prescription lenses that I put in there. And the reason for that is that I've got astigmatism, so I tend to have a need for that. Now, that's one of the things that I did like about these goggles, the Goggles N3, is that you don't need prescription lenses. In fact, you don't have the ability to put prescription lenses here. So what that is going to pretty much get you to a point where you're essentially able to use your glasses. So now I can wear glasses in here and not have any issues actually using my glasses. I do have some larger frame ones, and those should work just as well on this. And that's one of the reasons why, if you notice, this Goggles N3 compared to the Goggles 3, if I can get them together here on the screen, or better yet, let's do this. Here we go. So looking at the two, if you notice, it is definitely a lot deeper as far as the size compared to the Goggles 3. A way big difference, even though the weight is the same, or very close to the same, not really the same, but close to the same. It's doesn't weigh like how it looks. I mean, if I can note what I'm getting at on this, just because it looks big, it's not really that it's heavier. So it's not all that heavy if you think about it. And the way it's designed, it's actually designed so that it's actually comfortable, from what I've heard. And I'll have to try and see how that goes. But it is designed well so that it is comfortable to wear. And in fact, depending on your thoughts and my thoughts on this, personally, I'll have to see. But I'm thinking this is going to be, the Goggles N3 is going to be a lot more comfortable. So I'll have to try that out and see how that goes when I get a chance to fly this out there. It's really windy today, and of course I don't have the luxury of going out there and working with my drones, because again, too windy to fly anything right now. But in any case, so that's one of the things to look at. It is definitely bigger in size, but it's not that it's going to be feeling heavier. It actually is very comfortable from what I'm gathering. And a lot of it, again, has to do with the foam design that they've got here. Like I said, I can really feel that this is not going to be something that is going to annoy me while wearing it. So again, I'll have to try this out and see how that works with my glasses. So it has a nice spacey design. I do like it. Really cool design overall. Now, let's cover some more features about this. Again, I did talk about the defog mode. Of course, both of these, the Goggles 3 and the Goggles N3 have that. As far as the screen recording, you've got screen recording capability with the N3 as well as the Goggles 3. They're the same. Both are the same as far as head tracking. You have head tracking capability, and so does the Goggles 3. I'll mention where it's not, but you know, they pretty much have the same. And again, the key thing is this one you can wear glasses. Goggles 3, you're going to have to wear order prescription lenses for your goggles. Now, the other benefit about the Goggles 3, of course, you can't say that it's a bad thing overall. I do have the adjustments here that I can do for the pupil distance, although for this kind of design, you don't worry about the pupil distance. You can adjust these for your eyes as well. This one, you don't have that because you can wear your glasses, of course. This has the front cameras that allow you to see what's in front of you while using the goggles, although I rarely, really, almost never really use that, even though that capability is there. The fact that the Goggles N3 doesn't have that, it's not a big deal. Of course, that was probably a cost savings by not having that. Again, is it something I need? No. And it's not a bad thing not having that with these goggles. The other thing, both have USB-C, both have micro SD card capability as well. You've got, again, we talked about the number of antennas. You definitely have a lot more antennas on the Goggles 3 compared to the N3, but you still have pretty good distance capability with this, or range capability. The other thing that is limited in this that you have to keep in mind is the fact that with the Goggles N3, you can only link that up to the Avata 2 and to the DJI Neo. And with the Goggles 3, you definitely get more compatibility. With the Goggles 3, you can pretty much connect to your Air 3 and Mini 4 Pro as well. Now, is that a showstopper? Not really. If your focus is to buy the bundle of the Neo with the Goggles N3, it's a good deal. If you already have the Goggles 3, do I need to buy the N3? Well, not necessarily. In my case, like I said, I just bought it mainly because I'll just throw it in my bag with the Neo, and I still have my Goggles 3 for my Avata 2. So, you know, again, it's a preference thing. Now, what are the pros and cons? Again, I can use glasses with this. I don't have to get prescription lenses, which is great. So that is definitely a pro. Price is the biggest pro of all with the Goggles N3, in the fact that it's only $229. Why am I going to spend $499 for my Neo if I was just starting with the Neo? It just doesn't make sense. It's better to buy the one that's more low cost, and like I said, it is compatible with the Neo. Pretty much overall, for the price, it's a very good product. The N3 is a really good product. It lines up well compared to the Goggles 3, but again, the focus here being price. Now the cons. What are the cons about this product? Well, compatibility. We talked about the fact that on the Goggles N3, you're limited to just the Neo and the Avata 2 at the moment. Now, this is pretty much currently at the time of the making of this video. You know, if there's a update in the future that they expand that, that's going to be great. But for the moment, right now, you will be limited to just the Avata 2 and the Neo as far as compatibility is concerned. But again, it could be a con, could not be a con. I mean, it's all how you look at it. Again, for now, it's just a con at the moment. Another con on this is you're not going to get the full immersion that you would with a dual screen like the Goggles 3. But, again, that's up for interpretation. I mean, if you are just starting with drones, again, the price makes it a very affordable and worthwhile product to buy if you've got ideas of getting a Neo, and it's your first opportunity to get into FPV drones. That's where you're going to look at it and say, well, maybe it works for me. It's not the immersion is not so bad. So again, it's really a preference thing. And again, if you're starting with drones, I mean, this makes more sense to go with this here. So that's just something to, take into consideration. Again, we covered a few things on the features. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we can talk about this. And one more thing I do want to cover on this is that it does have what they call, or DJI calls, the O4 video transmission. The Goggles 3 has a capability, and so does this one as well. So that's another key things to look at. And I hope that this kind of helps you. It's not a lot of information on the product. There's definitely some more details up on the DJI website, but I just kind of want to cover a little bit about it and kind of give you an idea of what the product looks like, what's in the box, and how does it compare with the Goggles 3. Oh, don't forget to click on the like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. And for those who have, thank you for subscribing, and have a good day.